So we're going to start this one with drawing. So we're just going to sketch in this tree here. And so we'll probably exaggerate the rock. I'm actually going to bring the rock higher up into the trunk. So we're going to say, we're going to put that there. And mostly I'm doing that in this case because this is about painting the rock. So I want that rock as large as we can. We're just going to I think I'm definitely going to minimize that greenery that's there. Now this canvas has been painted with burnt sienna, and you can see it's transparent in areas. That really is not an issue because very little of that burnt sienna will survive, but we do want it to survive because it's going to act as a unifying coat. And burnt sienna is a very common background to coat a surface, but it's not something you should always do. You should always give some thought as to what it is you want that background to do. And in this case, the colors in here are going to be an orange, a green, and a very desaturated purple. So that's a triadic color scheme. And so those little bits of orange are going to act as a unifier. So that's a pretty unclear drawing. I can color stuff in with chalk, but that's just to give me an idea of where I'm going to be. So we're going to start with the shadows, and I'm going to be using a 3/8 flat. So I'm going to mix up some, just going to generally wet this palette down a bit, just spray some water over that. This is probably the last time I use this sheet of paper. So here we want these strokes to describe what's happening. So we want nice clean strokes, so we're not coloring. What we want to do is have nice bold strokes that are expressive. And the strokes are fast, but take your time thinking about what you want that stroke, direction you want it to go, what it's actually trying to say. We're just going to sketch that tree trunk in. We will put some highlight on it. This is now in the wet and wet blend rock one, we painted the sky in first, but here we are going to be painting the sky negatively. And again, these white pines, I suppose they could be jack pines. It's not really my neck of the woods, but they have that upward growth in the top part of the tree. And then we're coming way out with this branch. Then as the branches get older and heavier, they drop or angle down. This one actually has quite a bit of branches on both sides. It doesn't appear to be as windswept as many of these trees are up there. So we're getting the darks down first so that we can put the light colors on top of that. So we're going to lose a little bit of the difference between the rock and the tree there. Just mixing up more of this black as I go. This is a fairly complicated rock form that we're doing, and the drawing is a tad confusing until we start getting some of the other colors on there. Try not to starve the brush too much so that we don't get scumble marks like I just did there. Just going to switch to a rigger to do a little bit more on these smaller trees. With a rigger, you can roll it around to get the paint where you need it on the brush, not just on the body, but get a little bit off the tip. Now, one of the things I like about negative painting the sky, I'm not totally thrilled with the shape of that tree. And so when I'm negative painting, I can take that sow's ear and make a silk purse. I think that's how that saying goes. I think it's the other way around, actually, but... So we're making up our granite red color using the yellow and the warm red. So we're making a orange. We're going to add some weight into that to make that a lighter orange. And I think over this side, I'm just going to make that a little bit more yellow. And over this side, we're going to make it a little more gray. And I think we'll make that a little lighter too. Keep in mind that the acrylic paints are going to dry darker, so you want to err on the side. So I think I'm just going to do one more tone, quite a bit darker. Maybe actually going all the way into the blue side. So we got some colors that we can just quickly dip into. So we'll start with this grayer color. That's sort of interesting, a little bit unmixed color on the edge of the brush. Didn't bother washing the brush there. That's just gives us a little extra in the color. We want this color to carry through, so even though it's broken, the color ties it together as a part of the same rock. You don't want to go dancing all over the place, putting a little dab of orange there and a little dab of the orange here. I think we're just going to come in push a little bit more red in there. All right, come into the yellow side here. When you're painting like this, it's always a bit of a quandary as to how much of this detail in the, because this rock is full of cracks and chunks and whatnot, and how much are we going to put in there? Because overall you want this to look somewhat unified. So I'm just doing a few connecting lines. Just made my reference a little bit bigger. In my studio I have an iPad Pro which I paint from, but then I also have a 72-inch screen behind that, or what I call my Super iPad Pro. The larger something is, the easier it is to see. If you have a mouse in the corner of the room and you have an elephant in the corner of the room, you might miss the mouse, but you certainly aren't going to miss that elephant. So I see so many people trying to paint from their phone. That's sort of equivalent to trying to paint through a keyhole. Like, make your life a little easier. Paint something that you can actually see. It's one of the things I really don't care that much for painting outside, is this light changes so fast. So really you are painting from your memory as opposed to painting from life. Some scenes, they are so fleeting in their color that what was there a few minutes ago is completely different looking a few minutes later. So I've just darkened that red. I'm going to make it a little bit redder still. Maybe a little bit darker. You get a very nice dark red using ultramarine blue and red together. So we're just putting in some shadows on these rocks. It's pretty chaotic looking at the moment still, but we'll try to pull that together. If not, you just never see this video. Going to get that brush lying in the paint. GoPro, stop recording. We're going to make that red quite a bit darker. Get that a little redder looking. So now we're going to try and connect this up a little bit. Not sure I really like that color. Looks a little too much like the burnt sienna. The flat brush is very nice for doing thin lines, just when used on its side. I think I'm going to switch to the tree. I'm going to get the lighter green on the trees just to have a clearer idea of what this picture is going to look like. The rock is definitely very disorganized at the moment, and we have to pull that together. But we'll come in, we'll use the green sort of that we mixed up yesterday. But we obviously are going to have to mix up quite a bit more of that. We're such a lazy bugger, always trying to avoid putting down some more paint. But we definitely need a little bit more phthalo blue. We won't need a lot of it, but nothing really replaces phthalo blue. I always have an idea if someone doesn't really know what they're doing as far as color mixing goes when they don't have phthalo blue included in their palette, because there are some colors you just cannot get to without phthalo blue. So I'm going to use the palette knife just to get the paint off that brush, because I do want to have a sort of minimal paint on the brush so that I can get fairly sharp brush marks on that. So we're putting this light green at the top of the tree. And it's really down here, which is why I wanted to try and get that tree done so that we can have a better idea of where the tree stops and starts. I think after this we'll go into the sky as well, just to get a better idea of color balance. So like I say, you're trying to hit the top surfaces of the branch and let it have some nice expressive brush marks. The upward growing branches at the top. Okay, so we're going to turn this around now, just so the sky is a little closer to me, and when we paint the sky. So I'm going to let that dry a few minutes before I come in with the sky, just so it doesn't touch the green. GoPro, stop recording. We're going too far up with that color. So we're deliberately trying to leave some of the burnt sienna showing around here. It's a way to bring that orange up. So we switch to a little bit darker. So when you're painting, you come in and you pull out. Don't push paint into the tree. You don't want to end up with a puddle on the inside. So put that brush and pull out. So we're just going to come in and do a little bit more negative painting in the top there, and just periodically. So if you're negative painting, do not put the upper color down lower. Make sure you're choosing the right sky color as you're painting negatively in there. So here, successively get lighter as you go lower in the tree, just like we did with the colors. I think that would be enough. Now, one of the things we can do is, I'm not crazy about the way these brush marks look, so we can just come in there and add a little bit more expression to them, like where they're clouds or something. I think we might do a little more of this when it's right side up. Go. So we're just giving the idea that there's some clouds here. Makes the sky a little bit more expressive as well. Okay, we'll just get a blue paper towel here. I use the blue paper towel when removing chalk, mostly because it doesn't ball. So I'm taking the chalk off just so that none of that chalk is interfering with the way that rock is looking. I'm not going to touch those ones that are up near the sky that are relatively fresh. So now we want to try and unify this rock a little bit. So we're going to do a little bit of that with the dark color and a little bit with the orange colors. So I think I'm going to start with the orange colors. So we're just going to put a little bit more light on top of this. So I just get a little bit more. And we're putting this light up here because that's where the light hits at the top. So when you're grouping the colors, you want to try and keep them, they don't actually have to touch to be grouped. They just have to be in the proximate area. It's one of the laws of Gestalt is proximity. Maybe I should do a video on the Gestalt principles. It was a school, I think, around the early 20th century, and how we see things. Many of the things have been reworded or restated of those principles. Like the lost line is something that's very familiar to artists, but comes under Gestalt as continuation. I think I got a little bit of green in there. I don't like that. So we're going to now continue the unification. Sounds like a big political movement, but of the rock using the black. So I'm just going to get in some smaller detailed strokes coming off the dark. And we're going to join this dark with that dark and just have a little bit of a continuation of that shape. I think maybe even a little bit more down here. So we're forming a larger dark here. And I think, like in the reference, we're actually going to too much blue showing up in that. Not sure I like those little strokes there. We'll just take those out. Just put in a few finer branches on the undersides. We've got some greenery that we're going to put in after this, so we went a little bit more dark because we're going to be covering a bit of it. Hopefully you can now see that the darks are pulling things together a little bit more. I think we'll take that out. Maybe break that one up a bit. So we're just going to take some of this purple, a dark purple that we mixed, same way we mixed it before, but with a little less white in it. And so we're just going to put a little bit of that into the shadow area. That's a little bit light for what I want, but what do we know? It's going to dry darker, so we don't fret too much about that. We want these large darks, but we don't really want these voids. We got a little bit of unmixed magenta showing through there. So I'm just going to come down and I want to put a highlight on this tree, and I initially was thinking we'd go with these light purple, but I think it'll get confused with the sky color, so we're just going to come in here and make up something, mixing the purple and the orange together. think I'm going to take this purple and I'm going to desaturate it a bit. And the way you desaturate purple is with yellow. I know that looks like green, but there's yellow underneath there. And green even will desaturate purple a bit because there is a yellow component to it. So we're just... And I think we maybe went too far. So we'll bring it back. So with these strokes, when you're doing these strokes, they're describing the direction that the rock is going, or the shape of the rock. Cool. So we're just going to do a little bit more work on those trees. The green is looking a little bit solid. GoPro, stop recording. Just going to put in a little bit of the green. I guess these are, you might call them strugglers. They're shrubbery or evergreens just starting out, but they haven't picked or their seeds haven't landed in the most auspicious spot. And just coming to the side and producing a lighter version. I don't really like that green, and I don't think the yellow deep is going to get us there. So I'm just putting a small dot of yellow light in there to get that green a little bit more saturated. I'll just take a look at